Let's get straight into it. My international panel joining me now, Sky News contributor Kosha Garda, past chair of the Parliament's Foreign Affairs and Defence Committee, Michael Danby. Let's stay domestically, but with a Middle Eastern lens for a moment. The Secretary of Australia's largest Lebanese Muslim organisation says there is a groundswell of Muslim voters moving away from Labor over its response to the conflict in the Middle East. Jamal Kheir has claimed Penny Wong's criticism of Hezbollah flags at the weekend following the assassination of their leader was an example of the government deflecting from events in Lebanon. According to Mr Kheir, it says a lot that they're concerned about a flag than they are about saving lives and getting 15,000 Australians out of Lebanon. Well, I'll tell you what, Michael, this concerns me. How much will your old party compensate here for this criticism, given they're already panicked about losing votes in Western Sydney and Melbourne amongst this cohort of voters?
I think they're overcompensating. I don't think the so-called Muslim vote will get the huge groundswell and win seats like it did in Britain. Adult Australian governments base our foreign policy on events on the ground like 9,000 missiles over 11 months on Israel rather than on the suburbs of Western Sydney and potential votes there. So, mistake. It's being over generalised, and her audience is much more the socialist left of the party in the caucus and the Bob Carr group in Sydney.
Just a quick comment, Coach. I want to get onto other things, but yet another link between Hamas and UNRWA, the UN relief agency. A principal of a secondary school run by UNRWA was a senior Hamas official killed on the weekend.
Yes, I think this is another indictment of UNRWA that has been mired in controversy ever since the spotlight has been shining more on them right now with how they're allocating funds and different projects they're pushing. It's an indictment of the Albanese government that doubled Australian taxpayer dollars going to UNRWA soon after they took office. And I think at a larger point, it shines the light on this concept of actually maybe cutting back a lot of our funding and foreign aid that goes to all sorts of organizations, including the UN, that we have little to no oversight over, especially at a time when the cost of living crisis is so tough at home. It might be a good time to pull back. That way we don't have to litigate individual agencies and just take a clean break from it for a while and let the dust settle a little bit, because these agencies are very problematic.
Just a quick comment, Michael, on Austria, latest European country to shift to the right, the Freedom Party winning. They say it's a sign that voters are fed up with the status quo. I think heavy here as an issue has obviously got to be immigration, but it's come after similar scenes in Spain. We've seen obviously in France. And what worries me here with this mob in Austria is, I'm not going to say they're pro-Putin, but they're certainly not going to be tough on Russia. And that's a real concern given where they are geographically and Ukraine.
All of these parties are riding off the anti-immigration sentiment. The centre-right and centre-left have to address those issues like we did in Australia years ago if they're going to douse this down. And you're dead right, Peter. Putin has actually funded Marine Le Pen's party. He's got support from this party in Austria, and his favourite politician is the Hungarian Prime Minister, Mr Orban. But people who are anti-Putin and critical of Russia, like Mrs Maloney, who's in the centre-right, are very different from these kind of characters in Austria, Hungary and France.
Just quickly, if we can, Kosha, tomorrow obviously we've got the VP debate. It'll be interesting. They're a lot smarter than the debate we saw with Kamala Harris, but I think both men smarter in the head, at least with her. I'm not going to go down the way of Donald Trump and having a real crack at her, but she went to the border first time in 3 years. I do not know why he doesn't run her record harder. 13,000 murderers are on the streets. Polls are showing it's neck and neck. It's really tight. Where do you see things tomorrow?
I think tomorrow's debate, like most debates, don't really matter because at this point, Peter, there are just very few undecided voters left with 32 days left to go, and many states have already started early voting. I think tomorrow is going to be more of a closing argument. J.D. Vance, I think, will be a little bit more effective on staying on message and getting into the record, to your point. And it'll just be a way for them to punctuate, I think, the perceptions that people have already developed about both candidates. And then off to the races, we've got 30 days left.
Donald Trump, just point to the scoreboard. That's all you need to be talking about. Don't make it personal. Just get back to
11
the
million
record.
immigrants over the border. Where were you, Kamala?
11 million. You're right, Michael Danby.